Okay, this is going to be a really quick dry brushing demonstration on how to paint the dock pieces. I've already covered this on the half timber houses, but I figured I'd just do it again for this project if you're not familiar with the other ones. Here's a piece that was assembled incorrectly. You know, this post is actually supposed to be down and raise everything up, and I glued it together wrong, so this piece is going to be thrown away, but I thought I could still use it for an example for the dry brushing. Anyway, what we're going to do is you're going to spray paint all of the dock pieces solid flat black. So spray paint them all black, let them dry, and then what we're going to do is we're going to dry brush the earth tone medium color. It's kind of a pumpkin pie color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip my brush in the paint. I got a paper towel beside here, and I'm going to wipe off pretty much all of the paint out of the brush. And you guys have seen, you know, the dry brushing demonstration, so this should be pretty common. For this, you have to really get all of the paint out, and it's like, you know, I'm dry brushing all the way around the outside here and trying to get all of this out, and I might even need another paper towel to get it all out, because, you know, if you paint it on your hand, do you see it? If you don't see it, well, that's kind of a good sign. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and forth over the surface of this, and I don't want to see brush marks when I do it. I'm going to go really lightly. So really lightly back and forth. And I go back and forth over it and I don't really see anything. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. So that gives me the courage to kind of go back and forth just a little bit more. And, oh, there's a little something showing up there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do back and forth, and I'm kind of jabbing and pushing just a little bit. But don't jab too much, because this brush is still wet. It's still got quite a bit of paint on it, even though you may not think it at first. Okay, I'm going to go over across. Now we see this texture starting to come out here on the black a little bit. So I'm going to go just at different angles, and I'm getting a few brush marks, so that tells me that there's still just a little bit too much paint on this brush, but if I go lightly, I might be okay. So I'm going to go over it a little bit more, and now you can start to see this show up a little bit on here. So I'm going to continue going over it like so, and I'm going to use a little more pressure. So that looks like that is starting to come up pretty good. Now I always go with the flat surfaces first, because if you start on a post, you're really going to pick up the corners of the post when you don't mean to. So, you know, start with the flat surfaces first and get rid of most of the paint there. Then what you can do is you can start working on the side. And then just take your time, don't get in a hurry. You'll get a lot better result if you don't get in a hurry, and then just slowly go over it. Okay, let's see, that's working pretty good. Okay, I got this side right here, and let's go on this end. Now there's a post going to be here, so I'm not really worried about getting in that crack too well. So this one I'll get pretty well here. That looks pretty good. Now right now this brush is just about perfect. And you know, it's always a shame that as soon as your brush is just about perfect with paint, that's when the paint dries up and you got to reapply paint, and then you got to get the brush dry again and all that sort of thing. So that looks like that's working out pretty good. And putting it over the flat black like this, it changes that pumpkin pie color into kind of a dark oak color. It's really interesting. It works pretty well. So I'm going to get on this side of the post, and oh yeah, I forgot that side. You're going to do this all the way around, and if you need more paint, just pick up a little bit from the middle and then wipe that brush off again, because you don't realize how much paint you've just picked up. And let's see. That's probably pretty good. So when the paint dries, the paint will dry as just a shade darker. So when you put it on and it looks like you go, oh, I went a little too much. Once it dries just a hair darker, so it really didn't do quite as bad as you thought it did. Okay, here we go. I think I am just about there. Now once you finish a piece like this and you get it dry brushed to just where you think it's right, leave it on the table, and then When you start a new piece, you can use that as a guide to know about how much you dry brushed it. Now, if you're happy with the color that it came out after that, you can just stop there if you want. I want this to look a little more aged, so I want it to be a little bit grayer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish it up with the light gray of the Castle Gray colors. Now at this point I didn't really wash out my brush because I didn't want to get it all wet and have to dry it out again and all that. So I'm just going to go straight in with my gray and wipe it out. So you're going to probably see a little brown mix into that gray, and it's not going to hurt anything if I just go, you know, straight gray. But that's plenty of paint in there. I have got to get all of this out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to very lightly go over it and pick up the edges with the gray. And this is just going to gray this brown out just a little bit and give it an older look. Okay, we got most of that paint out of the brush. Notice I put a new paper towel down on top of here, so I've got, you know, a dry paper towel and I've got a clean one. So what I'm going to do is this time I'm going to go over it. Let's see, do I have any? I don't have any on my hand. If I could see a little bit on my hand there. So I'm just going to very gently go over, once again, the flat surfaces here. Just very gently go over it. And this is just going to gray this up just a little bit so it's not quite so brown. There we go. And you don't want to see any streaks. So if you see any blotches or streaks, you got too much paint on there, you need to get that excess paint off of there. Now, after I did the flat surfaces, I think you'll really see it pick up once we start hitting the post and edges here. Yeah, so you can kind of see that that's starting to bring out some of the highlights a little bit more on this, on the front end. Yeah, look at that. See, do you see the difference on what that did there? That really made a difference on this side right here, and it graded up. It really gave it a more natural look. At least for like waterfront, you just assume that the water or the wood ages more, or, you know, it's just wood has a rougher time near water. But anyway, okay, so we're going to hit all the sides of this, and I think that's pretty much it. Okay, that's what it starts out. Let's see if I got that in the camera. That's what it starts out to be. We hit it with the gray, and kind of pushing, jabbing, you know, that should do just about right. Okay, so that grays it up pretty nicely. Okay, I think that's just about it.